What if I told you this billionaire's journey started with a box of garbage bags? Yes, you heard that right. Garbage bags. This is the story of how Mark Cuban flipped his first $1 million into $1 billion using hustle, strategy, and a little bit of luck. But it wasn't easy. Let's dive into how it all happened. When you're 12 years old, most kids are thinking about toys or hanging out with friends. But Mark Cuban? He was thinking about business. Mark Cuban didn't grow up with wealth or privilege. He was a middle-class kid from Pittsburgh, where his dad worked on car upholstery and his mom took on odd jobs. Cuban's first business venture came when he wanted to buy new sneakers. Instead of getting an allowance or a handout, his dad gave him a challenge. "Sell these garbage bags," his dad said. So, young Mark went door to door selling them for $6 a box. He turned this small task into his first taste of entrepreneurship. That was the moment Mark Cuban learned two things that would shape his future. First, if you want something, you have to work for it. Second, if you control the way you make money, you control your destiny. By 16, most teenagers are still figuring out what they want to do with their lives. Mark Cuban had already decided. He wasn't waiting around. While most kids were focused on high school, Mark was already thinking about the bigger picture. He took night classes at the University of Pittsburgh because he was hungry for knowledge, especially when it came to business. In fact, by the time he was 17, he made a bold decision that would change everything. He dropped out of high school to attend college full-time. Cuban didn't fit into the mold of the traditional student. He had bigger ambitions. He knew that learning the rules of business was more important than following the rules of school. Most entrepreneurs struggle to find their big break. For Mark, it came after he was fired from a job. But instead of defeat, he saw it as the perfect opportunity. After graduating from Indiana University, Mark took a job as a software salesman. He wasn't the model employee. In fact, he got fired for closing a deal behind his boss's back. But getting fired didn't slow him down. Instead, it lit a fire. He took everything he learned from that job and started his own company, MicroSolutions. MicroSolutions wasn't some tech behemoth. It was a small computer consulting business that Mark ran from the ground up. But here's the thing. Mark didn't just start a company. He built a solution. He hustled, worked late hours, and learned as much as he could about networking and computers. Mark made sure to deliver value to his clients, and soon the business took off. After years of grinding, he sold MicroSolutions for $6 million, pocketing $2 million for himself. This was Cuban's first real taste of wealth. But here's what makes Cuban different from most people. When he made his first million, he didn't go on a spending spree. He lived like a student, saving every dollar and preparing for his next move. Because to Cuban, $2 million wasn't freedom, it was just the beginning. So what does a newly minted millionaire do? Most people would splurge on luxury. Cuban, he bought something far more valuable: time. The first thing Mark bought after his $2 million windfall wasn't a mansion or a flashy car. It was a lifetime pass on American Airlines for $250,000. Why? So he could fly anywhere, anytime with anyone, completely unrestricted. For Cuban, that pass represented freedom. It allowed him to travel the world without worrying about costs or schedules. Mark Cuban wasn't focused on spending money, he was focused on maximizing time. The most important thing he learned from his early success: time is the most valuable asset of all. While others would have blown through millions, Mark continued to live modestly, saving and waiting for the right opportunity, and soon that opportunity would arrive. By the mid-90s, the internet was exploding, but no one really knew what to do with it, except for Mark Cuban. It was 1995, and Mark's friend Todd Wagner came to him with a game-changing idea, using the internet to stream audio. The concept was simple, yet revolutionary. Mark and Todd started a company called AudioNet, which later became Broadcast.com. The idea? Stream live sports, radio shows, and music over the internet, something no one else was doing. What started as a niche idea to stream Indiana basketball games turned into the first ever streaming company. Cuban wasn't just betting on a business, he was betting on the future of media. As the internet grew, so did Broadcast.com. By 1998, they took the company public in one of the most successful IPOs of its time. The stock price soared, and within hours, Mark Cuban was worth over $300 million. But Cuban wasn't done. He knew there was more to come. He didn't just build a streaming company, he built the future of content. CCC, when most people hit $300 million, they think they've made it. Mark Cuban? He saw an even bigger opportunity on the horizon. In 1999, Yahoo approached Cuban with an offer. They wanted to buy Broadcast.com for $5.7 billion in stock. Mark took the deal, but he wasn't about to let the dot-com bubble wipe out his fortune. He saw the tech bubble building and knew a crash was coming. This is where Cuban made one of the smartest moves in financial history. He didn't just take the Yahoo stock and hope for the best. He hedged his bet. By using a financial tool called a collar, Cuban locked in his gains and protected himself if the stock price dropped. And drop it did. The dot-com bubble burst shortly after, and many internet stocks lost 90% of their value. But not Cuban. He walked away from the crash with over $1 billion. Mark Cuban didn't just win the lottery, he played the game smart. While others got greedy, Cuban protected what he had built. Section 7. The Mavericks turning a struggling team into champions. So what does a billionaire do after cashing out? For Mark Cuban, the answer was simple. He bought his favorite basketball team, the Dallas Mavericks. In 2000, Mark Cuban purchased the Dallas Mavericks for $285 million. At the time, the team wasn't exactly thriving. They were one of the worst teams in the NBA. But Cuban wasn't just buying a franchise. He was buying into a challenge. Cuban didn't sit in the owner's box like a typical billionaire. He sat courtside, with the fans, celebrating every win and agonizing over every loss. He transformed the culture of the team, focusing on both the business and the players. Under Cuban's leadership, the Mavericks went from underperforming to unstoppable. In 2011, they won their first ever NBA championship. Owning the Mavericks wasn't just a hobby for Cuban, it was a lesson in leadership. He built a winning culture, not just on the court, but in the business of sports. Section 8. Mark Cuban's rules for success. From selling garbage bags to building a billion-dollar empire, Mark Cuban's story is proof that success isn't about luck. It's about strategy, hustle, and always being one step ahead. But how did Cuban do it? It all comes down to a few key principles that guided him throughout his journey. First, find something you're good at and be great at it. Cuban wasn't just a businessman, he became an expert in every field he entered. Second, learn how to sell. Whether it was garbage bags or billion-dollar businesses, Cuban knew that if you can sell, you can succeed. Third, always be learning. Cuban never stopped expanding his knowledge, whether it was technology, sports, or finance. And finally, play smart, not greedy. Cuban protected his wealth when others chased after more. He knew that protecting what you've built is more important than risking it all for the next big score. Mark Cuban didn't just chase money, he chased freedom, and that's the ultimate lesson. Because in the end, success isn't just about having millions or billions. It's about having the freedom to control your life, your time, and your destiny. Closing hook. So what will you chase? Are you ready to turn your first $1 million into $1 billion? The journey starts now.